Naming rights.
Naming rights.
Thank you very much. Can I get a member of council to move adoption of the agenda as presented? Councillor Barnhart.
So moved, Your Worship.
Thank you. Discussion on the motion? Seeing none, all in favor? And the technology again. Okay, all in favor? That carries unanimously. We have tonight 3 items on the consent agenda. I move that council consent to approve the following agenda items without debate. Item 5A, regular council meeting minutes of February 25th, 2020. And items 10A, Councillor Stout's report, and item 10B, Councillor Danwick's report. As information, discussion on the motion. Seeing none, all in favor? That carries unanimously. Understand that brings us to item number 4, open forum. I understand, Councillor Stout, you have an introduction for us tonight.
Do I get a mic? Yes. Thank you, Worship. Yes. You're probably aware that the library manager of Beaumont Library resigned back in December. Since then, January, February, library board have been sifting resumes and seeking a new library manager and interviewing candidates. I'm proud to report that we have appointed a new library manager, Miss Laura Winton. She started yesterday, March the 9th, and I wanted to take this opportunity to present her to council and to administration and to let her introduce herself. So this seemed the most convenient opportunity to do it. Laura?
Right away. Hi, everyone. Thank you so much for having me. I'm so excited to be starting at the Beaumont Public Library. A little bit about me and my background. I've been a librarian now for 8 years, and I've worked all that time with the Edmonton Public Library. I've worked in assessment and research. I've worked as a programming librarian and also as a manager in a number of the branches. So I'm really excited to bring everything I've learned there to the Beaumont Public Library. I'm only on day 2, so I don't have a lot to report yet, except that I'm learning lots. I'm getting to know the staff, the board, and I'm really excited to get to know each and every one of you over the next couple months. So yeah, it's a little bit about me.
Awesome.
Thank you so much.
We appreciate that. No, don't worry about
Okay.
it. We appreciate you coming in tonight, especially after day 2. That's a couple of days, but we're happy to have you and wish you a long and happy career with the Beaumont Library.
Perfect. I'm very excited to be here. Thanks so much. I'm just going to sneak out. I have to run home and get the kids to bed.
No worries.
Thank you so much, everyone.
Okay. So that brings us to item 6A. Public hearing and second and third reading of bylaw 96619, our Centreville redevelopment plan. So therefore, at this time, I'd like to declare the public hearing open and that the hearing is being held pursuant to sections 230, 606, and 692 of the Municipal Government Act. Ms. Winter, please.
Thank you, Your Worship. The purpose of bylaw 966-19 is to designate the Centreville area of the City of Edmonton, City of Beaumont as the redevelopment area to adopt our Centreville area redevelopment plan. The notice of the public hearing was provided in writing to the Leduc County, the City of Edmonton, school boards, and other utility companies and agencies. The public hearing notice was advertised in the local newspaper on February 28th and March 6, 2020. The public hearing notice was advertised on the Beaumont's website beginning February 28th, 2020. Any written submissions received are included in the public hearing agenda package, and there's nothing to read into the record at this time. Thank you.
Thank you very much. And as we move forward into the public hearing, just a reminder to everybody that's going to be making presentations this evening to, when you come down, please state your name and sign in. At this point, we will ask the Director of Planning and Development or their designate to come forward and make a presentation. Mr. Wong, how are you tonight? Anytime you're ready.
Thank you. Good evening, Your Worships and members of Council. I'm excited to bring forward Bylaw 966-19, our Centreville Area Redevelopment Plan, for your consideration tonight as a result of a collaborative discussion, workshops, and other public engagement activities with a variety of stakeholders that include landowners, business owners, school boards, community groups, residents of not only Centreville but also Beaumont-wide, and the administrations. The plan was presented to City Council on December the 10th, 2019 for first reading. The plan was then submitted to the Edmonton Metropolitan Region Board for their review and approval through the Regional Evaluation Framework process. The plan was formally approved by EMIB on February 5th, 2020. Our Centreville Area Redevelopment Plan is designed to provide a new vision for the development and revitalization of Centreville Beaumont's downtown over the next 25 plus years. It proposes urban design strategies, land use concepts, and policies for the 4 precincts within Centreville. Each precinct offers a distinct character and a focused theme regarding land use and build form, while allowing a diversity of development opportunities such as civic, institutional, residential, commercial, and cultural amenities and uses throughout the planned area. The civic and institutional precinct not only is the civic center of Beaumont, but also a destination of choice for civic and recreational events and festivals in Beaumont and the surrounding region. The downtown core precinct is the commercial and employment center of Beaumont and will provide opportunity for mixed-use developments and more intense residential developments in Beaumont. The residential infill precinct allows for low and medium density residential development with or without commercial opportunities. The cultural heritage precinct recognizes the significant history of St. Vital Church that plays in the city. As such, this precinct portrays and reflects this heritage and cultural life in Beaumont. In addition, this precinct acknowledges the potential of new amenities and venues to create a cultural destination. It is important to mention that achieving a vision, the goals and objectives of the plan will require supporting infrastructure such as water, storm and sewer networks, mobility and transportation networks, parking and access, and many more. The plan also lays out implementation and monitoring strategies to support continuous improvement to the plan. The plan complies and is consistent with policies of the Edmonton Metropolitan Region Growth Plan. In particular, our Centreville provides a roadmap to achieve the aspirational density target of 100 dwelling units per net residential hectares and a 10% intensification target within Beaumont's built-up area as set by the growth plan. The plan also aligns with Beaumont's MDP, our complete community, which set out policy direction for transforming Beaumont's downtown as major business, social, cultural, and entertainment focus of the community with a distinct French flair in support of a prosperous, vibrant, healthy, and welcoming community. Administration recommends approval of Bylaw 966-19 by the City of Beaumont Council, as it complies with all higher level plans and policies, including the Metropolitan Region Growth Plan and our own Municipal Development Plan. I'm happy to answer any questions that you may have.
Thank you very much. I really do appreciate it. Tonight's the culmination of a long road of hard work to get to this point. And I really do appreciate all the input that's been put in by the public and other stakeholders.
Yeah, thank you.
And the work that's been put in by our staff. And at this time, I will open it up to questions from members of council, if any. All right, seeing none. I do know that we have been through this a couple of times over the last 3 months, so appreciate your patience.
Thank you.
All right, is there anybody in the audience tonight wishing to speak in favor of the bylaw? Seeing none. Is there a member of the public present this evening that wishes to speak in opposition to the bylaw? Please.
name is Margaret Bouchard. I'm not actually in opposition. I'm disappointed that I did not see the invitation to participate in this late February, did he say? The meetings to, because I was involved in the first time when we came up with the French Village theme, and I definitely would have participated this time if I had known there was some kind of meetings. I'm just disappointed that I did not know. I'm not totally against it. Excuse me. I'm sure the people that were involved did their best. And I guess I do have a question. Was it advertised that there was this French theme meeting again?
Further back to
We have the most recent was, I think, January 22nd and 23rd, 2 nights over at Quebec. The second night was here in council. We advertised the event for 3 Fridays in the Beaumont paper,
Okay.
3 consecutive Fridays.
All right, thank you.
And to be clear, the February meeting that you referenced was with the Metro Region, which is outside of the local process. So it's a culmination, and you've got to stage that regional board for approval.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you very much. Is there anybody else wishing to speak in opposition to the bylaw this evening? Is there any person that wishes to speak that deems themselves to be affected and wishes to be heard? All right. Seeing none, does administration wish to make a closing comment before we close the public hearing?
Yes, at this time, I would like to recommend the councils to consider the bylaw 96619 for second and third reading. And because it complies with the 2 sections of the MGA. Section 634 is to allow the municipality to designate an area as a redevelopment area. And Section 635 is to approve the area redevelopment plan for the objective of the plan, proposed land use, and for redevelopment purposes. In order to do so, also 966-19 repeals the last plan that was approved in 2009. So that's what to make that clear to council that you're repealing the old one and adopt the new one.
Thank you very much. Appreciate that. At this time, we will declare the public hearing closed and move to the RFG to pass second and third reading. Is there a member of council that wishes to move second reading this evening? Councillor Montgosway.
I'll move second reading.
Thank you very much. Does administration wish to comment further?
Nope.
Nope.
Thank you very much.
All right. Questions or comments from members of council? Councillor Van Nieuwkerk.
Yeah, thank you, Your Worship. Through to administration, I just wanted to acknowledge the document, the 2014 CARP. In chambers, often there is conversation about documents being old or stale or out of date or whatever, and I just wanted to really acknowledge the fact that, you know, that has a 2014 date on it, yet it's still included in a document and a presentation and something that we're moving forward in 2020. I think it speaks to the complexity of some of the issues that are dealt with when you do a project of this size. And I also think it acknowledges that there is value in the old material that has been completed in the past. And it does show that the effort that goes into those documents does carry forward and have life beyond its years. So just wanted to point that out, as often there are concerns that plans and such are shelved and not used. But I think this is a right in front of our face example of the fact that it's here, and 6 years later after the title, it's part of what we're doing. So thank you.
Thank you very much. Councillor Barnhart.
Thank you, Your Worship, and thank you, Mr. Wong, for that presentation as well. The work that's done on this is extraordinarily good. I really do appreciate all the work that the administration and the consultants have done on this. And I was going to say, similar to what Councillor Van Nieuwkerk said, that sometimes the fear is that they're going to sit on the shelf. And this one has so many parts to it that really excite me. I sure won't let that happen any time that I can, avoid it from happening. The document itself is really easy to read and I think quite beautiful to look at. but maybe that's just me. I don't mind reading reports, but at the same time, I'm wondering, can we get hard copies of this report, or is that not something we
Yeah,
spend
we can,
money
we
on?
can consider putting in print, like push, real print,
Like a
not from the computer, yeah.
Okay, right, because I think it would really be a document that we could be proud of, and it's useful. There's 25 years plus years of work involved here, and I know that, but there's certainly some things here that I just can't wait to get started on,
No.
seeing them actually happen, and hope that we can move in that direction.
Yep.
And I appreciate that this is a building on previous plans, and it does take us where I'm really happy to be going, so thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. All right, seeing no further requests to speak from members of council, I will call the vote on second reading. And that passes unanimously. Is there a member of council willing to move third reading this evening? Councillor Danlop.
So move, Your Worship. Thank you.
Discussion on the motion? Seeing none, call the vote. All in favor? That also carries unanimously. And once again, please pass on my congratulations to the rest of the planning staff and from those of council as well, that for all the hard work, well done.
Yep, thank you.
Thank you. That brings us to item 6B, bylaw 97-320, repeal of the town of Beaumont and Leduc County Intermunicipal Development Plan, public hearing and first, second, and third reading. So at this point, we will declare the public hearing open and state that the hearing is being held pursuant to sections 230, 606, and 692 of the Municipal Government Act. Ms. Miner.
Thank you, Your Worship, through you to members of council and the public. The purpose of bylaw 973-20 is to repeal bylaw 48598, Town of Beaumont, Leduc County Intermunicipal Development Plan. The notice of the public hearing was provided in writing to Leduc County, City of Edmonton, and Alberta Transportation and other agencies. The public hearing notice was advertised in a local newspaper on February 28th and March 6th, 2020. The public hearing notice was advertised on Beaumont's website beginning February 28th, 2020. Any written submissions received are included in the public hearing agenda package, and there's nothing to read into the record at this time. Thank you.
Appreciate that. Once again, I'll ask the Director of Planning and Development to the designate, Mr. Wong, to please come make a presentation.
The purpose of bylaw 973-20 is to repeal the Town of Beaumont City and Leduc County Intermunicipal Development Plan adopted back in 1998. The objectives of the existing intermunicipal development plan with the Leduc County is to establish land development controls and facilitate intermunicipal communications on land development matters, and to provide provisions for conflict management without preventing each municipalities from making decisions within their jurisdiction. The existing intermunicipal development plan does not meet the current requirement of the Municipal Government Act as a result of the most recent modernization of the Municipal Government Act. And administration has determined in consultation with the Leduc County that the plan is outdated and no longer serves as a relevant planning purpose for either municipality. Recently, the City of Beaumont, Leduc County, and the City of Edmonton have approved the intermunicipal planning framework and signed a memorandum of agreement on February 25th, 2020, which fulfills many of the core functions and benefits of an intermunicipal development plan. For instance, the intermunicipal planning framework provides a framework for future land uses, transportation, and servicing within the municipality's boundary interface, requires that the referral of planning and development applications that may impact the other partner municipalities, and outlines a dispute resolution process. Administration has concluded that the intermunicipal planning framework that the three municipalities signed, the Municipal Development Plan, and the Edmonton Metropolitan Region Board Growth Plan will provide sufficient direction for regional growth. And in addition, as a member of the Edmonton Metropolitan Region Board, the City of Beaumont and the Leduc County are not required to have an intermunicipal development plan as per Municipal Government Act. Following the same process, Ladue County also brought in intermunicipal development plan repeal to their council earlier today, and the county council passed the bylaw with 3 readings after the public hearing just earlier this afternoon. The City of Beaumont administration is recommending that council give bylaw 973-20 first, second, and third reading following the public hearing. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Appreciate that. Are there questions from members of council? Councilor Barnhart.
Thank you, Worship. I have just one, I think, relatively simple question. You say in the report that what we currently have, which you're suggesting we repeal, does not meet the regulations under the Municipal Government Act. Do we have something that does, or is there another piece of work we have to do?
Currently, we have the intermunicipal planning framework between the 3 municipalities, the City of Edmonton, Ladue County, and ourselves, and that will serve as the...
That means, okay,
yeah.
that's what I thought, but I wasn't 100% sure. Thank you.
Councilor Stout.
Thank you, Worship. Through your Worship to Mr. Wong. The key sentence in this for me is that administration has determined that the Edmonton Metropolitan Growth Plan, intermunicipal planning framework, and each municipality's municipal development plan provide sufficient guidance and direction for joint land use planning matters. So if that's true, you definitely have my vote. So I guess philosophically, my question is, how sure are we that that is true? Because there's... or how can I be sure that that's true? Because these are big, complex documents covering a huge amount of different material. And I'm trying to think of a good analogy here. If I'm building a space rocket and I get 3 or 4 different contractors to provide me with all the different components that I need, each of which are hugely complicated, and we know all those things work, and then I put them all together and then launch it into orbit, how do I know that everything's going to work, and that we've covered all the things that we need? I don't want to get into orbit and find, well, actually, I can't pressurize it because we didn't actually think about that in any of these components.
Yep. Through the mayor to Councillor Stout, yes, the IDP, the current IDP is mostly on defining how the 2 municipalities, Ladue County and Beaumont, will circulate. Basically, if there is a proposed development within the interface boundary, then there is a requirement to notify the other municipality that there is that application, so they can provide feedback and comment on that applications. But in at the modernization of the municipal government Act several years ago, not only that, they also require the IDP to identify future land uses. For example, they require the provision of a transportation system for the area, either generally or specifically. So those are not within the existing intermunicipal development plan with the Ladue County. But the recently signed intermunicipal planning framework that was signed a couple weeks ago, that fulfills those requirements. And the municipalities, we are of the opinion that and determined that because of the intermunicipal planning framework fulfills the requirements of the IDP, the elements, and also identify how the 3 municipalities, not just the 2, the 3 municipal partners will refer applications all the way from the MDP, municipal development plan, to even subdivision applications and development permit application if that is a discretionary use. So it's a very comprehensive referral process. So that is identified in the planning framework. And to answer your question, that will provide a safeguard for the land use compatibility, basically within the municipal boundaries that are in the boundary interface area. So I don't know whether I answered you that question.
I think so, yes.
Yeah.
If I understand you correctly, then what we're saying is we know that that what we're repealing already doesn't cover some of the things that we are required to cover.
Yep. By the MGA. Yep.
So we already know that there are gaps in the existing arrangements, and that consequently we have to have a new arrangement in order to cover the gaps we know about.
Yeah.
Okay.
And this is the new arrangement. IPFA, the Intermunicipal Planning Framework, is the new arrangement.
So if there are things that we haven't thought of, then they're already, those deficiencies are already in the old process. And you have a process to,
Yeah.
and we have a new process to
Yeah.
address them anyway.
Yep, and in the IPFA, the Intermunicipal Planning Framework, there is a process to review it, and also there is a working group that meet regularly, and if there are any monitoring the plan, and if there is anything, then we will bring it to the respective council for consideration. Yeah, so it is a plan, you know. So basically, there it is the first document. But then, if there are any, if through the monitoring and implementation of the plan, if we see that there is a need to amend it, to change it, or improve it, there is that opportunity. We have to bring it back to respective council. All three councils would have to approve that.
Would have to agree further. Great,
Yeah.
thank you. Appreciate your answer.
Any further questions from members of council? All right. So this time I would ask anybody wishing to speak in favor of the bylaw, present this evening, to come speak. Is there anybody in the audience or present this evening that would wish to speak in opposition to the bylaw? Is there any person that deems themselves to be affected who wishes to be heard? Seeing none, do you wish to make a concluding statement?
I think as a result of the determination with the Ladue County and also the fact that they have approved their own bylaw to repeal the IDP, I recommend our council to do likewise.
Thank you very much. So this time we'll declare the public hearing closed, and we will move into first, second, and third reading, which will, of course, include a pause after second reading to get unanimous consent to move forward. Is there a member of council wishing to give first reading to bylaw 973-20 to repeal bylaw 485/98? Councillor Stout,
So moved, Your Worship.
discussion on the motion? Seeing none, all in favor? And that carries unanimously. Is there a member of council wishing to move second reading of bylaw 973-20? Councillor Van Nieuwkerk,
So moved, Your Worship.
discussion on the motion? Seeing none, all in favor? That carries unanimously. At this time, I will move that council unanimously consent to give third reading to bylaw 973-20 to repeal bylaw 485/98. Discussion? Seeing none, all in favor? That carries unanimously. Is there a member of council wishing to move third reading this evening? Councillor Barnhart.
So moved, Your Worship.
Thank you very much. Discussion on the motion? Seeing none, all in favor? And that carries unanimously, which leads us to the completion of public hearings and bylaw 973-20. Thank you very much again, Mr. Wong, for all your help this evening.
Thank you.
There are no registered presentations, which brings us to item 8A, Recreation, Parks and Culture Advisory Committee appointment. One second. Ms. Maynard.
Thank you, Your Worship. Through you to members of council and the public. Council is required to appoint members to several boards and committees. Appointing citizens to serve on city boards and committees strengthens the citizen engagement in the community, which is a key focus in council's strategic plan. There is currently one student appointment to the Beaumont Recreation, Parks and Culture Advisory Committee. The vacancy was advertised for several weeks in the local newspaper and on Beaumont's website. The steering committee, comprised of the mayor and the committee chair, has recommended the following appointment. Inderpreet Sindhu. Mr. Sindhu is a grade 11 student from the Beaumont Composite High School. Inderpreet is currently actively involved in the youth center and Air Cadets. Inderpreet has strong understanding of the needs of the youth in Beaumont and will be a great addition to the Recreation, Parks and Culture Advisory Committee. At this time, administration is seeking approval on this appointment this evening. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Appreciate the background this evening. Councillor Stout, I understand you wish to make this word.
Yes, I'd like to
Motion.
move that we appoint Inderpreet Sidhu to the, let me get this right, the Beaumont Recreation, Parks and Cultural Advisory Committee. I've met Inder a couple of years ago when I adjudicated him in a public speaking competition at cadets. I've seen him numerous times at cadet events as well. He's nearly always in uniform. And he's also, as has been alluded to, a member of the the Beaumont Youth Council, where I was talking to him only last week. I find him to be very enthusiastic and engaged, but at the same time, reflective and thoughtful in everything, in all my dealings with him. So I think he'll be a great asset to the advisory committee, and I think he'll be an excellent representative for Beaumont Youth on that committee. So I would endorse his application and commend him to you, and I therefore move that we appoint him to this committee.
Thank you very much. Is there further discussions from members of council on this motion? Seeing none, start the vote. All in favor? And that carries unanimously. Thank you very much for this evening. Which brings us to item 9A, bylaw 975-20, repeal of the French Village Design Guidelines, first, second, and third reading, and approval of the Beaumont Urban Design Guidelines. Ms. Winter? No, sorry. Mr. Wong.
No public hearing for this
Sorry,
one.
I got on the roll. I know.
Okay. So Your Worship and members of council, our Centreville project not only included the review of the area redevelopment plan, but also it required the review and update of the existing French Village Design Guidelines. Together, the two documents, just approved the area redevelopment plan, and this new Beaumont Urban Design Guidelines will provide guidance to address the growth pressure of the city and bring the plan into alignment with all higher level plans. The Beaumont Urban Design Guidelines is the city's roadmap to ensuring that a high quality urban design is achieved. It is intended to build upon existing development by ensuring the ongoing development of attractive buildings that reflect Beaumont's French heritage and the city's evolving role as an urban center. The proposed guidelines allows for more contemporary and sustainable design than the existing French Village Design Guidelines, and also incorporates winter design principles and consider various building topologies such as mixed uses, commercial, civic and institutional build forms. The implementation of the Beaumont Urban Design Guidelines has been streamlined from the existing design guidelines through a revision to the development application process. The composition of the existing design review committee would be revised from an internal committee to an external committee consisting of industry professionals that would meet monthly to review development applications that are unconventional or that require variance from the zoning bylaw and the Beaumont Urban Design Guidelines. Administration recommends the approval of the Beaumont Urban Design Guidelines, as the design guideline is to be used in conjunction with and complement the Beaumont Land Use Bylaw, our zoning blueprint. However, since the current existing French Village Design Guidelines was adopted by bylaw prior to the approval of the new Beaumont Urban Design Guidelines, Council has to repeal the bylaw that adopted the French Village Design Guidelines. I'm happy to answer any questions that you may have. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Mr. Wong. Once again, this particular item is a the culmination of a long year to 18 months of work. And it's gone through several iterations. I know we've been through them a couple of times now. And I do really appreciate that and all the input that we've gathered from our public and our stakeholders to really get to what I think is a flexible document that can be really well used in conjunction with our new land use bylaw. So at this time, I would like to open it up to members of council for questions. Councilor Barnhart.
Full of questions now. Thank you, Worship. And thank you again, Mr. Wong. I would think from a resident's point of view, there would need to be perhaps some assurance that we're not losing the French village theme.
Yep.
It's embedded throughout the document, and I wonder if you could just highlight a couple of the ways in which we'll continue to have French architecture be part of the look and feel of our particular Main Street and other parts of our city.
Yeah. The traditional French, they are required in the Main Street district, as you see from this orange section. Attachment 5 of the document, starting on page 83 of the council package. So basically this, like this, and if you see the building design on page to Main Street is the focus that you have to have more economic ability, feasibility, and those design elements throughout Beaumont, but particularly Main Street, we are basically require the traditional French character.
Just to make sure that I understand, and others who maybe haven't read the document, it's again a detailed document that talks a lot about the architecture, and it's not just those words. There's also diagrams, and there's this footage, and there's size, is that?
No.
This, but we have made it more achievable outside of the main area.
Yep.
Thank you.
And the guidelines, if I may, the guidelines is basically designed for the essential and the suggested. Essential, they are technically ready to do so.
Councilor Van Newkirk.
In 5.4, thank you. Our complete community, Beaumont's MDP. And then it says our zoning blueprint, Beaumont land use bylaw, both huge documents that have been redone. Then you go down, where are you building? Inside or outside of Centreville? Well, we just got done approving Centreville. So if you're down the right-hand stream there, you know, it says go and review the Centreville area redevelopment plan. And so when I got to this page, when I was reviewing, it struck me as to why and how in the last couple of years residents have felt over-engaged at times, because there were so many bits and pieces that were coming together to build the land use planning, the repeal of old bylaws to put new bylaws in, to make everything come together to even be able to start to craft a page like this in a document that ties everything together. So, to all those who were engaged along the way and sometimes wondered what they were being engaged for, this document and is a piece of it, but this visual roadmap here, it ties it all together nicely for me. So I just wanted to comment on that, because there have been so many plans that have been come before council in this, my first term, and you wonder, how is this all going to come together? And it really struck home for me when I saw this roadmap here, and I just wanted to comment on that tonight. So kudos to administration for that, and thank you.
Thank you. Fair enough. Thank you very much. Councilor Stout.
Thank you, Worship. Through your Worship to Mr. Wong. I was just looking, a sentence that caught my eye in the introduction there was the Beaumont Urban Design Guidelines, which replace the French Village Design Guidelines, are non-statutory guidelines that shall design direction in Beaumont. And then there's reference to a design review committee, which I assume then would not have statutory powers. Is that correct?
No, because the statutory power is through the land use bylaw, because the land use bylaw is a bylaw, and this is a design guidelines that is to provide the design elements to supplement the bylaw, because the bylaw, the land use bylaw set out the regulations such as the dimension of a setback, for example. But this one is to talk about the facade.
Yes.
So, and what are the colors? The land use bylaw won't be able to go into that details, but the guidelines would be able to do so. Yeah, so it complements, and that is why it is not a bylaw. The land use bylaw is, and that is also provides the development officer a little bit of latitude to negotiate with the developers, as to what is a good design, what is acceptable, and how to wiggle if there is like some rooms for improvement and some rooms for give and take, if I may say that.
Yes.
So, yeah, but if it is a bylaw, then it is fixed. You need to provide 2 meters and 2 meters.
Okay, so just talk me through this then. So if the design review committee, I don't need to submit my plans to, or a developer does not need to submit their plans to if they meet 75% of the essential guidelines and 25% of the suggested, or 100% of the essentials, if I'm reading from the document. So then, in the event that we don't meet, that a developer does not meet the 75%, and it has to go to a design review committee, does the design review committee have the power to refuse permission?
Oh, yeah. No, sorry, no. The development officer would, but they would make the recommendations to the officer on the application with regarding to compliance of the urban design guidelines. And the applicant, as part of the application, not only that they have to submit the application, in terms of the urban design guidelines, they have to have the urban design, what we call the urban design brief, is how their design meets the requirement, because that will basically reduce the risk of the development officer's interpretation of some policies. And the designer, the architects would basically develop this design brief to tell the development officer
The proposed design, if there isn't enough give and take for the proposed design, if it's not French enough, if it's not, if it doesn't comply closely enough with the recommendations and guidelines, then
the review committee would make a recommendation to development officers saying that this application with the submission, it doesn't meet the design guidelines.
Permission is not granted.
And then the development officer would, based on that, would make the decisions on the development permit.
Or alternatively, the committee could say this is, well, it's not quite, it's good enough, and recommend it passes.
Yeah.
Yes, I understand that.
And that's actually how I think it'll be more used than the other way around. But
Yeah.
So there is some wiggle room here.
There's some wiggle room, and that's the whole point of the whole thing.
Yes, but at the expense of having a committee procedure to review what's acceptable wiggle and what isn't.
And we would encourage them to submit the design earlier on, not wait until everything is done. So there is also head start, instead of finalizing everything, then you submit and then you say, there is a little bit of not meeting the design. So then you have to go back to the drawing board.
Yes, I understand. Although on the other side of the desk, that may not always be practical. Good. All right. Thank you. Yes, you've answered my question.
Councillor Renner, follow up.
Thank you, Your Worship, and I do have a follow-up. And I think, Mr. Wong, you said that we had to have a bylaw before. That's why we have to repeal it. We don't need a bylaw.
We don't need a bylaw for the
Can you just
guideline.
tell me what's the technicality there? Why do we not need one now? Why did we need one before?
Because, first of all, the land use, the Municipal Government Act doesn't require us to do design guidelines. It just requires the land use bylaw, and part of the land use bylaw, Section 640 of the MGA, is for the land use bylaw, and under that there is a bullet called the land use bylaw may basically talk about the building type, design, and everything, and this is to support that that land use bylaw. So to give the development officers some documents, some guidelines to evaluate a design. So that is why it doesn't require to be a bylaw.
The previous one did require us to have it,
No.
the previous MGA?
No, it is. The MGA Section 640 is always that, but previously the French Rated Design Guideline was adopted as a bylaw.
So you can adopt any bylaw you want if council approves it,
but
but we don't have to.
We don't have to adopt it, but and also adopting it as a bylaw, basically there is a different requirement to the administration. So there is not much wiggle room, for example, because it's a guidelines, and you don't have a discussion on the guidelines. Basically, if you adopt it as a bylaw.
It's more administratively driven than it was in the past. It was more council driven.
Yeah. It is council-driven because you still approve the
We're still
guidelines.
establishing the guidelines.
But the land use bylaw, you don't have that wiggle room.
Talking a lot about wiggle room.
You know
Okay.
what I mean? Yeah. So.
Thank you, Your Worship, through to members of council. Just tying on what Mr. Wong said, these guidelines are administrative. They're used to help the development officer make a decision. So they're not, they don't need to be a bylaw, or we're not recommending them to be a bylaw, because if they ever need to be altered or different things like that, putting those into place in such a rigid statutory form probably isn't the best place for this. They are being approved by resolution tonight by council, which is that touch point for you, and providing that governance oversight into them and what they look like and what the form of development is going to look like in Beaumont, with that ability to be able to tweak it just a little bit to work with the development community to ensure that development, the form of development, meets the needs of the economic development goals that council set out. That's why we're recommending that they are done by resolution.
So essentially, this becomes less statutory, more guidelines. They're actual guidelines
Yeah.
versus
Yeah, you
a
see
statutory
guidelines.
requirement.
Yep.
Correct. Or they can vary it without coming to council. It becomes less rigid. Councillor Van Nieuwkerk.
Thank you. Mayor, I'd be willing to move that we move first reading of this bylaw.
So you're moving first reading of the repeal of bylaw 975-20, repeal of the French Village Design Guidelines?
That is correct, yes. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Are there any further questions for Mr. Wong before we dispose of this first reading? All right, discussion on first reading. Seeing none, call the question. All in favor? That carries unanimously. Is there a member of council wishing to move second reading of bylaw 975-20? Councillor Stout.
So moved, Your Worship.
Discussion on the motion? Seeing none, call the vote. All in favor? That carries unanimously. At this point, I will move that council give unanimous consent to allow for third reading of bylaw 975-20, repeal of the French Village Design Guidelines. Discussion on the motion? All in favor? That carries unanimously. Is there a member of council willing to move third reading? Councillor Mark Oswine.
So moved.
Discussion on the motion? Seeing none, all in favor? Thank you very much. And that passes unanimously. And so therefore, is there a member of council willing to move that we adopt the Beaumont Urban Design Guidelines as presented? Councillor Danluck.
So moved, Your Worship. Thank you.
Discussion on the motion? Seeing none, all in favor? And that also carries unanimously. Once again, it's a large body of work that's all starting to come together, and we really appreciate all the work that's gone in
Now
over the
we can
last 2.5
implement.
years. It'll be interesting to see what we leave for the next council.
Yeah. Thank you.
All right. At this time, we'll move to item 10, councillor inquiries and reports. We'll start off with councillor inquiries. Do members of council have questions for administration this evening? Councillor Van Nieuwkerk.
Yes, thank you. I had brought 3 questions tonight for administration. First one was, what is the current status of the business plan for the Beaumont Child Care programs? And just wondering if administration can provide an update on the process and any expected timelines associated with that. Thank you.
Ms. Mohammed?
Thank you, Your Worship, and through to Councillor Van Nieuwkerk. So no work has started on that yet. We're intending to look at it a little later on this year. So there's no firm timelines associated with that yet. Thank you.
Second question?
Okay, second question. This question comes from a couple of angles that I've been chatting with residents around lately. What is the administration able to do to support the communications and promotions of events that we, as in council and City of Beaumont partner with in the community, such as the Rural Roots Fair and the Beaumont Blues and Roots Festival. Just wondering what has been done in the past and what more can be done to increase the visibility of these important events in our community. There have been many suggestions put around of use the sign or append links in email strings and those types of things, but just look into administration to see what communications and promotional support we may be able to give. Obviously, we need to go and talk with these organizations, but I wanted to get this rolling here tonight as snow is melting and we're getting ready to hear all the great things that we're going to hear. Thank you.
Thank you, Your Worship, and through to Councillor Van Newkirk. So over the years, there's been various ways that we have partnered up on communications. And hopefully the community has noticed recently, and of course council, that communications has really been stood up in the municipality. So a lot of the focus has been internally building the communications up, and then how council communicates with the community, as well as all of our planning endeavors that we do as well. So hopefully folks in the community have noticed that shift. So as we continue to grow that program, we really want to start strengthening the relationships with community groups and identifying opportunities for cross promotions. So that would include like promoting Beaumont events to help bring more people to the community and help for shopping and other activities. Staff now are happy to meet with local groups to discuss how we can work together to promote events. Options, and this is just kind of early days, but includes, social media, web, electronic billboard, as well as promoting Beaumont in general within the region as a place to visit. But we would be working with the community groups to determine what the best solutions are really for their events and who their target audience is and other factors. So in other words, it can't be just the standard that you would have for each group, because we all have different needs. And then we're also looking at how the city can increase its presence at events to promote community as well. Thank you.
Thank you for that answer. So safe to say, point the community groups towards city administration and our communications team and work together and start to help out. I know myself, I have noticed a huge shift in the communications that we've been doing, the reach that we've gained in the last few months in the community, even through to our spring awareness event that we just had on the weekend. We had actually a video hit on the CTV News, and I don't know if that was noticed much in Beaumont, but it was there. There was a camera at our event at spring awareness. That's never happened before, and that's exciting. So thank you. Third question?
Third question, yeah.
Thank you. Residents have been asking councillors individually more details around what can be expected of the upcoming facilities at the BSRC, as in what can we expect in the gym? How will the field house be set up? Will there be a curtain? Will there be a scoreboard? More recently, I was asked about pickleball and nets, and it just led me to think about the bigger picture around that. I was just wondering if administration can provide us with some further information to council and the public to share about what we can expect to see for amenities as all the beautiful, nice blue tin is going up, and the outside is getting covered and the snow is melting, and it just residents are excited and anxious, but they're wondering what they're going to see and what they're going to get and what they're going to be able to touch when it comes together. And just wonder if administration could provide some more information on that. Thank you.
Thank you, Your Worship, and through to Councillor Van Newkirk. So we intend to have more information come before council and of course available to the public when we come back with the fees and charges schedule. And at that time, we'll also have a high-level rollout plan for getting the rec center operational, which will have more of those details. But I think for residents, in terms of recreational centers, there's a certain level of expectations. So I think it's pretty safe to say at this point, like the basics for a functioning recreational center and associated activities, such as scoreboards, nets, that kind of equipment is coming with the rec center. So we'll certainly, considering that high-level rollout plan, providing the details of what things look like, but we may not be down to the level of detail of how many nets in different places like that. So rest assured that the equipment needed for the rec center will be provided with the rec center with the rollout.
Yeah, thank you. Just follow up to that. I think that just even being able to pass that level of information on literally would have answered 2 questions that I've logged your guys' way. So, I appreciate that level. And, when people want to know how many balls and how many nets, well, I encourage you to go visit the facility and find out for yourselves once it's open. So, thank you. That'll be all for right now. I'll have comments after maybe.
Councillor Montgomery.
Thank you, Your Worship. Given the fact it's spring, I think several councillors have been asked a few questions around a couple of topics. First one, can you just provide a bit of background on our approach to pothole management, how we fix potholes, how we analyze them in the community there?
Thank you, Your Worship, and through to Councillor Munkoff-Swain. So we definitely are in the season of potholes, and we all know that the potholes are worse this year. Probably a lot of freeze and thaw has ended up with what we've got. It gets tricky this time of year when you're repairing your potholes because the weather is so unpredictable. It's snowing one day, it's dry the next. This is part of the reason why we have these potholes. So we prioritize them based on traffic volume and size and severity. And the money for the pothole repairs comes out of the roads and drainage budget. We have enough money in the budget. So what we'll be looking at right now in terms of fixing these potholes is something called cold mix. And it's like a temporary fix. It's the stuff that you see we kind of glob in there and then it packs down and eventually it starts to break up again. So as part of the 2020 budget, council did approve something called an asphalt hot box, which basically is a better repair for these potholes and more permanent. Nothing's ever permanent, but better. And it essentially bakes the material in there, but we can't use that hot box until we have drier spring-like conditions. So in the meantime, what you'll see across Beaumont is this cold mix being put into these potholes.
Thank you. And just to follow up to that, I wonder if we could develop some sort of communication around that we can send out to our residents, whether it's through our paper, whether it's through online, just to explain that. I think that was a really prudent purchase from council, recommended by administration, to get that increased system, I guess, and I guess it'd avoid a lot of questions and concerns out there around timing when we actually start this. So I'd encourage administration to look at communication around that. So that was just a follow up on that. I don't know if anyone else had any comments on that issue before I move on. No, okay. The second question, again related, we may be a little bit late for this. Again, an issue that came up around snow removal and. A lot of frustration from residents who obey by the signs, told to, hey, we're going to be removing snow in this part of the neighborhood on this day. Please remove your car from the side of the road. And frustration from residents for those who haven't and not following the regulations or the requests, I guess. So the question is, what powers, if any, do we have to look at further enforcement as opposed to just potential tickets or warnings? Do we have the ability to tow? I'm not suggesting that we are doing that. I'm just curious on what we have currently in terms of our bylaws. What's allowable under the current bylaws with regards to snow removal?
Thank you, Your Worship, and through to Councillor Munkoff-Swain. We have the ability to tow. Towing is not the preference of vehicles. Initially, what we'll do at first is tag a vehicle and put the notice on there, and hopefully they do move it. If they don't, then we do have the ability to tow. One thing that we did do this year, which is different, we appointed one of our lead operators as a bylaw officer. So he has the ability, so the way that it used to work was you would go in and the cars would be parked at the side of the road. And then you would have to call enforcement, and then enforcement would come over and they would come deal with it, maybe tow the car, tag the car. But now that we've appointed one of the lead operators who's on the roads already, as a bylaw officer, they can tag and tow that car. So there's no waiting. They can just get on with it and move it if they have to. But again, our preference in the community is to inform and educate and tag cars before we tow cars.
Thank you. And a follow-up to that one, and maybe putting you on the spot, but have we towed any cars in the last little while for this type of thing?
Through your worship, my understanding is yes, but I just couldn't tell you exact locations or.
Okay, thank you for that. And then the last question from me, if you don't
Last
mind, Your
question
worship.
for you, last one, yeah.
Appreciate it. Yeah. So council recently passed our budget. I appreciate that was only 2 weeks ago. But as part of that budget were several recreation projects, which I think a lot of the community was excited for, B, interested in the engagement that needed to follow the budget process. So I'm wondering if you could please provide an update on when they can expect to see some engagement around the projects, and also some of the projects required some geotechnical work. And so if you have any update on a plan around timing for those recreation facilities. Thank you.
Thank you, and through your worship, I do have an update. So these projects, even while the budget process is going on, often what we do with staff is we start doing the project management and looking how we can plan these projects together, get equipment and supplies. So that's already started. So the update that I have is that they're looking to have a combined open house for some of these recreational facilities. And the combined open house would be protective services with some of the items that they want to engage on. And they're looking at the first week of April, but the date and location are still to be determined. Thank you.
Just to follow up on the, and you may not have the answer, but with regards to some of the technical work that had to be required for the multi-purpose outdoor facility and and one of the rinks in Donsero, et cetera, are we working towards that, or does that come after the engagement? I'm just curious on the timing around that.
Just through your worship for clarification, are you talking about the design, like the?
So the geotechnical work required
geotechnical.
at the outdoor multi-purpose facility as well as Donsero. So I guess my point is, we're going to make sure that we can actually do it. We can, physically execute the project before we go and consult on these things. So any update on the timing for that work?
My understanding is they've started to look at scoping that out and looking at the different companies that can do that work. That work can happen at any time. So we don't have to wait until it's summer or anything else like that. The geotech work can actually happen. It's just a matter of them getting the contractors and everyone in place.
Okay, looking forward to all that engagement. Thank you.
Councillor Barnhart.
Thank you, Your Worship. My question to the administration, I gave you a bit of a heads up this afternoon. I just wanted to know if we have plans in place and some information you could share with council around the COVID-19 outbreak. And I know that it's not our primary responsibility, but I know our citizens may look to us for some leadership and some information that we can direct them to the right information. So anything you would have on that, we could share. Appreciate it.
Thank you, Your Worship, and through to Councillor Barnhart. This was going to be my CAO updates, but hey, we'll talk about it now. We've done quite a bit of work, and we're really trying to focus on this. It takes a lot of capacity to get all of this kind of stuff up and going. Our first communication, I believe, went out today, and it went out on Facebook okay, so it's on the website and on Facebook regarding coronavirus, which is now called COVID-19. So at this time, we know that there's no pandemic that's been declared. And we've been told by the province that the risk of spread remains low in Alberta, but we'll continue monitoring the situation as it develops. We are in regular contact with provincial authorities and are assessing the public health risk. If we need to, we'll cancel or close events if things change. The way it works right now is we get daily updates from the province about the situation and action that needs to occur. Beaumont does have an existing pandemic plan in place to ensure essential services such as fire protection, policing, water, garbage pickup, making sure that those services are maintained in the event of a staff shortage. Our departments are just today commenced creating business continuity plans for each department. We've also assessed the different buildings based on exposure and risk and rated them. And staff have been provided with information to help stop the spread, hand washing, using sanitizer. All the city facilities will remain open. Our programs are still running and events are still as scheduled. So we'll be keeping the public updated via web and social media, and we're referring the public to Alberta Health Services for information about the virus and preparation. So our focus is more on making sure that there's continuity in the municipality of services, but as a source of information about COVID-19 and all the knowledge that comes along with that, that is the province that would be leading that information. Okay, thank you.
All right, seeing no further questions, are there members of council that wish to make a statement or ask questions of each other? Seeing none. All right, I do have a few updates that are, you gotta go. Councillor Stout.
Like that. My mind was elsewhere. I just wanted to, I'm sure you all read my report. I just wanted to draw your attention to the fact that there is a proposed council supper with Beaumont Youth Council and Youth Centre, I'm sorry. And that also that they had raised the question of what the questions we wanted to put forward for discussion with that group. Don't have to answer me now. And in fact, I think it would be better if you directed any responses directly to the youth centre. But I want to make sure everybody was aware of that.
Fair enough. Any further things? Okay, so a couple of things. Just looking at what's coming on and what's going on in the region. Today, I just happy to make an announcement. The Regional Transit Service Commission voting completed today with our final 3 municipalities of Fort Saskatchewan, Spruce Grove, and Sturgeon County voting today. And I'm happy to report that all 3 voted in favor of joining the Regional Transit Service Commission. So out of 13 municipalities in the EMRB, there's 12 of us that are going to be involved in the delivery of regional transit service. This is a great day for our region, and looking forward to the hard work that still has to come. I feel sorry for Councillor Munkoff-Swing. He put a lot of effort in. He's still got a lot of effort ahead of him. Lots of work to do in order to get this up and moving. So good luck with that. If you need anything else, let us know. Councillor Munkoff-Swing.
Yeah, just thank you. And that's excellent news. Just for awareness, the next conversation regarding this will be on March 27th, where the 12 communities will get together and have a further look at the scoping document that Ernst & Young initially provided, and take a look at what that means with potentially Strathcona County out, but also look at some options about how to go back to the county and see if there are ways to move forward together as a region. So I'll have more of an update then. Thank you.
No, appreciate that. It's also a very busy time in the region. The MRB, as council knows, is undergoing a large-scale number of projects. We're currently exploring shared investment for shared benefit, which is having heavy conversations. And I'm pleased to report on that front. We have moved to a point where we're now starting to discuss what some of those things could be, and we're trying really hard to define what's regional and in a regional context that would be of benefit for everybody. So as that work continues, I will keep council updated. The other large body of work that's coming up in the next little bit is we're hard at work on the IRTMP. I'm sorry, I forget sometimes what all these acronyms are for, but the Integrated Regional Transportation Master Plan. Oh my God. I'm getting there. All right. Either way, so we've had our first couple of meetings and we've now scoped that. We are actually looking at it's gone beyond a list of traditionally it's been a list of transportation projects. We are now holistically looking at how we're going to move people and goods into the next 20 up to 2040. So we're planning on the next million people. We're planning, the region is projected to have 2 million people by 2050. And so we are now planning for the next million. And so we are going to have to be taking a large, hard look at how we're going to move people, because the roads are getting congested now. I don't anticipate the roads getting any better. I anticipate them getting worse. So look for more discussions on transit, look for more discussions on bikes, look for more discussions on walkable communities as we come forward. Those are the 2 main ones right now, and I'll have some more in the next council meeting because there are some other initiatives that are ongoing, as we also are scoping out a new strategic plan for the region and to how we're going to move our way forward, because now we're into the implementation phase of our growth plan. Do members of council have questions for me this evening? All right. And I know we stole a little bit of the CAO's thunder, or let's see, Deputy CAO.
Thank you, Your Worship. I actually have quite a few updates, so
Oh, good.
don't worry. The first one I want to talk about tonight, if you were curious why I went running out of this room in a little bit of a mad dash, was there was an update that was coming through from the RCMP. This afternoon, there was a report from a 12-year-old girl who attends Dance Rose School that she saw a little boy who was 6 years old get lured into a black truck, and they drove away. So that report was made to the RCMP. We're now about 3 hours in since the report, and there hasn't been any reports of a missing child. So this is going out on the wire to the community to make the community aware of this. They're still investigating it, but I just wanted to share that with you. So if you see it show up on Facebook, that's what this is all about.
Appreciate the heads up.
Okay. Moving on to other updates. The first one is about our school resource officer. Do you have that photo? So Beaumont School Resource Officer, a member of municipal enforcement along with the RCMP, participated in Anti-Bullying Day at Beaumont Schools. Champs Valley, Beau Meadows, and Bellevue were all attended with the officers, and they spoke to students of all ages. So this is actually a photo of them from that day in their pink uniforms.
Those are awesome.
Yeah. Fire services also had an update. So working in collaboration with fire services across the South Capital region, the City of Beaumont submitted a 2019-2020 fire service training program grant application to the province in January. Our application, which includes Beaumont, City of Leduc, Leduc County and Devon, and Wetaskiwin, and the International Airport, was awarded about $25,000 in funding for various training courses beginning in April. Unfortunately, this is the final year of funding for this grant. It was identified by the province in February that this grant will no longer be available after this year. So training under this grant will include wildland firefighting training, pump operator and driver training, and officer development courses. From community services, tomorrow is spring and summer registration for programs online and in person at the CCBCC. The library will also do their registration online and in person at the library. And I keep changing topics. I realize this. There's no transition between these items. So the next update is we purchased snowshoes with the $2,000 from Alberta Parks and Recreation Association, their Healthy Communities grant, which we received this year. And since Family Day, we've had 31 rentals of the snowshoes. So if you're interested in renting snowshoes, you can do so at no charge through the CCBCC for up to 2 days. And that's my updates for tonight. Thank you.
Clarifying question? As long as it's a clarifying question and not a new topic.
No. Thank you. You brought up the spring online awareness sign-up sessions, I guess. I've always wondered, and people ask me, I never have the answer. Why do we make it at 5:30 to sign up? I'm with everyone else who signs in online to try and get their kids in that lesson. We don't obviously have the pool right now, so less folks. But why 5:30? Like, is there a reason behind that? Like, and I know that we invested a lot of money in technology to improving that service, and it runs really, really well now. It used to get up at 5:30 and have it crash on you, and that was triply frustrating. But is there a reason behind the 5:30 timing for this? Sorry to put you on the spot.
So through your worship, to clarify, 5:30 a.m.?
5:30 a.m. is when every man and their dog in the community with kids my age gets up and hammers to try and get on the site. I'm just curious of why that is.
I actually don't have any idea, other than perhaps maybe they thought that at 5:30 a.m. no one's
Before
working,
kids.
no one's got activities in the evening.
Yeah.
It's fair game for everyone to get access. That would be my guess at that early wake-up call.
Unfair question, and I mean, at that time, I'm usually up with my little guy right now, so it doesn't really matter, but, yeah, I was always just curious around that. So, yeah, thank you. Sorry.
Fair enough. Thank you very much for the updates this evening and some really exciting news there. There are no items of correspondence in tonight's package. Do members of council have notices of motion they wish to make this evening? Councillor Van Newkirk.
Yes, thank you, Your Worship. I've got 2 notices of motion to make tonight. The first one is that council direct administration to identify funding sources and a suitable location for a cenotaph monument in Beaumont that symbolizes the sacrifices of all Canadian Armed Forces personnel who have served Canada in the time of war. The second notice of motion is that council direct administration to develop a strategy in support of regional collaboration to host other municipalities in Beaumont and learn from their experiences through collaboration with the objective of improving the viability and long-term sustainability for residents in Beaumont. Thank you.
Thank you very much. We accept those notices of motion this evening. Are there other members of council wishing to make notices of motion this evening? All right, seeing none, can I get a motion from a member of council to move into closed session? Councillor Van Newkirk.
So moved, Your Worship.
Discussion on the motion. Seeing none. Sorry, all in favor? That carries unanimously. We are now in closed session. We will take a